plan was for Matthew to take his new boat up to Scotland for the summer, where Maureen would join him. She doesn't like long sea passages, so I'd agreed to help him get the boat up to Inverness, and John had also said he would like to do at least part of the trip. This is a bad omen. If you put it up now, that practically guarantees not reaching Scotland.
We'll get marks for effort. I've got a Dutch courtesy flag just in case. And the French one. And the Channel Islands.
And the Norwegian one.
Bye bye!
Oh well.
Let's get the water skis out.
Yeah. The wind had been in the north for some time, and strong winds caused Matthew to delay departure for a day. I suggested another day's delay might be a good idea, but Matthew was keen to get underway, and John only had a limited amount of leave. As we sailed down the Orwell, we put 2 reefs in anticipation of wind out at sea, but in the river this seemed overcautious. It seems to have been hovering there for a long time. I don't know what's going on.
What do you do? Hit the power. That one.
Yeah.
And then that other one. And you're there. Must have a quick start to, and then you put it in drive and get up to about 2,500 revs max. No sudden moves, I'm filling up the kettle.
Righto.
I wouldn't say that's quite risky.
No, it's possibly the rear building.
By the time we reached Langard Point, the true breeze became apparent, and by the time we reached the Deben, we had put the 3rd reef in the main with 3 rolls in the jib.
Jib's hard in. Probably could go another couple of turns.
Yeah.
I'll wait for you to get the main in first.
Yeah, get main in there. Drop it right down the Traveller. Right, jib right in there.
John was developing that quiet, far-away look that heralds the onset of mal de mer, and he soon retired below with a bucket for the rest of the day. If we were just out for a day's sail, this was good sport, but for a passage, the maths just didn't add up. The boat was making 6 knots through the water, but only perhaps 4 knots to windward. With the tide underneath us, that gave about 5 knots, towards Lowestoft. However, around Southwold the tide turned, and towards the bulge of Norfolk it runs more strongly. Our progress north fell to 2 knots, and with 15 miles still to go, that didn't look at all good. We tried motoring, but that was no more effective, and we finally got out in around midnight, cold, wet, and rather dispirited. The next day was much quieter, but we were all too shattered to carry on immediately, and needed a day to dry out. The yacht club is very nice, and the harbour is interesting, but beyond that, downtown Lowestoft really doesn't have much to offer. Back at the marina, they were trying to dredge the pontoons, but it looked as though someone's jackstay lost overboard and got caught in their gear and blocked it up. The next day we headed north and soon came across this anchored barge carrying bolts of timber for the sea defences. Despite its size, it carried no AIS and could have given us a nasty surprise on a foggy day, as we had no radar. Off Yarmouth, the tide was still flowing hard against us, but there's nothing we could really do about that. They spent quite a lot of money on the harbour there, haven't they?
Yeah.
Pretty unfriendly towards yachts, I hear them. We left the low-lying Norfolk coastline behind and headed off, out of sight of land, across the Wash. With the flatter seas, a bit of sunshine, and a couple of stewger on, John had got his sea legs back again and was beginning to enjoy himself. Yeah, this is one they were building when we came past last time. We could have described this trip as a tour of UK offshore wind farms. This was yet another one being built with the aid of this enormous crane. Finally the tide turned in our favour, and we began to make some decent progress. Matthew had only just fitted AIS, and it was very reassuring to be able to watch what was happening as a procession of boats came up behind us. Despite looking ominous, this black cloud appeared to be going the same way as us and gradually faded away, leaving us a clear night to pick our way through the mass of shipping anchored off the Humber. We gradually closed the coast, and eventually Flamborough Head appeared in the distance, as we stayed just inshore of the shipping lanes. I was probably cursing having to make a change of course. It was delayed him by 5 minutes.
Wind on the soft.
It's just in the wrong place.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. It must have been a big flash. Something sailing.
We had thought of stopping at Scarborough, as we hadn't been there before, but it was about low water when we arrived and there was no point hanging around, so we carried on towards Whitby.
You can lower down whenever you like.
Different people see the other side of it.
Despite sailing slowly along since passing Scarborough, we were still too early at Whitby to get in straight away, so we hung around under mainsail until Matthew calculated there was adequate water to go in. Yeah, it went down to about 3.9, didn't it? Which is...
Have you got any lines out?
No.
They're not rigged yet, we've got them on here. Half a bridge, economy of effort. Oh, we got 2 lifeboats here. That's a bit greedy.
Thank you.
Thanks then. Plenty of water now. Matthew had been about to fit a new plotter onto the bridge deck, but it hadn't arrived quite in time to fit, so he passed the time by manually updating
I
it.
can see they're just coming up on the plotter now.
John was running out of time, and we needed to find somewhere to drop him off so he could catch a train back to work. Hartlepool seemed the best place, so we were heading in there. When we started to look at the weather forecast for the next few days, and in fact the whole of the next week, sounded absolutely horrendous. And we made the decision to actually go home again rather than get stormbound in Hartlepool for a week. As we approached the harbour, Matthew was negotiating with a car rental firm. It was tight, but we could just about manage to get in before they closed for 2 days for the bank holiday.
Was it your phone?
Yeah. I did a lot trying to get you to see in a yacht. Can I phone you back in half an hour? Please just definitely reserve us that car. Yeah, we're... Yeah.
It's alright, just...
It's just we're just going through a lot, so I need to get off the phone. But I'll give you a call in half an hour or so when we know what we're doing. Thank you very much. Ta, bye. Might have a run home again if it all goes together, but bank holiday, they're totally booked up. I think we're lucky to get even a car. Some ropes on the port as well, and we're there. Need your national insurance.
The almanacs state that there's water for a 2-metre boat, anything other than an hour either side of low water. We were 2 hours below for low water, and we only draw 1.7, so there shouldn't have been a problem. However, we only got about another 50 yards. I later checked the calculations for depth. There should have been 2.3 metres in the channel, which is where we were, but clearly there wasn't, so it must have silted up. Pity, because the harbour master didn't say anything about it when we told him our draft on our approach. We blew up the dinghy and I rowed John ashore to catch his train. then came back out to the boat, and we both rode out the anchor. There was only about half a metre to fall, so it shouldn't have been too bad, and in fact the hull never did touch the bottom. We weren't very popular with the returning fishing boats, who should have had enough water to get in, but as we were effectively blocking the channel, they had to edge very gingerly around our stern. Our main worry was that if we heeled too far, the mast might hit the harbour wall. But we managed to spin her enough so that if she did heel that far, the mast would fall clear of that. "5 hours after grounding, we were finally able to tie up. There was plenty of room inside. The marina really is a big place with plenty of space, even for large craft. In fact, so much that they even run a small sailing school within the basins. There were lots of places to eat ashore, but the idea of being stranded there for a week still didn't appeal. So, as if we'd lost our car, we caught a train the next day. We all agreed that going back was the right decision, because the next week it blew a gale and tipped down with rain for about 5 out of the 6 days.